Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today I've got an episode of Loadout, the series where you guys, the viewers, get to pick a gun and customization for me to use. The way you do this is you leave a comment down below letting me know what kind of weapon and accessories you'd like me to run with. Now we'll pick one of the top rated comments for the next episode. Today's top comment comes from JWB Legend, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 Noob Class Engineer. Primary MP7 with any laser and suppressor, secondary FN57 with heavy barrel laser and no optic, grenade M67 frag grenade, knife survival if you have it, otherwise your choice, gadget 1 small, gadget 2 none, field upgrade offensive. I hope you pick mine. Great content, keep it up. By the way, I don't like Call of Duty anymore because I started playing Battlefield 4. And I will say it's a little surprising to me that Battlefield 4 in its current state could sway people from the Call of Duty franchise, but then again, I think both titles have had essentially not the best sequels this year. Now the loadout didn't mention optics, so I've stuck with the iron sights, and I have to say the MP7 does look very cool even with the iron sights. I'm a big fan of this gun design in general. It's very easy to operate, it's small, it's maneuverable. I just like so many things about it, the modern design. When you stick a laser and suppressor on there in Battlefield 4, it's going to make it silent and it's going to give you even better hipfire. All the PDWs in the game have pretty darn good hipfire accuracy, and when you put a laser sight on there, it's going to make them even better. Unfortunately, the suppressor does make your hipfire slightly less accurate, but not enough to essentially make it ineffective, and you'll see most of my kills here I am hipfiring. In fact, I was making it a point to try and hipfire as much as possible. Keeping the iron sights on there certainly makes hipfire a much more attractive option. Now this loadout is picking from the Black Ops 2 setup, and I have to say that this was still a very popular loadout in Battlefield 3. In fact, it was one of the best hip firing setups that you could pick, and that was back when PDWs were universal weapon classes, so you could run around with the assault class using an MP7 and laser sight and just absolutely wreck people with hipfire in maps like Operation Metro all day long. But Battlefield 4 is a different game. Does the MP7 still rank up at the top of the charts for hipfire weapons? It's still very good at hipfire, as you can see from the gameplay here. I'm still getting most of my kills while hipfiring, but there are some very good contenders out there. Pulling up the stats from Synthic.com, we can start to break down the MP7 and figure out which areas it's going to excel at. Obviously, it's got good hipfire of 1.0. Now, there are some PDWs that have better hipfire accuracy, such as the P90, which has a 0.75 hipfire accuracy. Put a laser sight on there, and you've got a weapon that's virtually just as effective, if not even more accurate, for hip firing. It's got an extremely high rate of fire of 950 rounds per minute, almost making it as fast a rate of fire as the CZ3A1. However, its damage model stops at 20 damage maximum, so you're going to need at least 5 shots to take down your opponent in close quarter, provided you're not hitting them in the head, and you're going to need even more at range. So this really isn't a ranged weapon, especially if the muzzle velocity didn't clue you into that. 420 meters per second is extremely slow. Put a suppressor on there and you're bringing that bullet velocity down even slower. So range shooting is not recommended at all. You're going to need your entire magazine to take somebody down from medium to even long range, if you can even kill them at all. Now when it comes to the rest of the stats, we've seen some unfortunate downgrades from the MP7 from its former glory days in Battlefield 3. First of all, we've gotten an even longer reload time. It's not much longer, it's only been upped from 2.4 seconds to 2.5 seconds, but the MP7 has an extremely simple reload system. I'm not sure why it's given so much time. I mean, it's almost identical to a pistol reload. If you watch the reload animation in-game, the magazine is released from the handle of the gun in a very simple fashion and then reinserted in the same way. There isn't any sort of elaborate system involved, yet DICE has given it a 2.5 second reload time, which I think is not only unwarranted in terms of gun balance, but it's also unrealistic. Now let's move on to the recoil of the gun, and this is honestly one of the areas where the MP7 got one of the most impactful downgrades since Battlefield 3, and that is the vertical recoil. The vertical recoil has essentially been tripled, which is crazy to think about. In Battlefield 3, you used to be able to just sort of aim for the head and make all your shots pretty much land on the head in close quarters. It was a headshotting beast. In Battlefield 4, it is now much harder to control. The first shot recoil is relatively high, and all of your other your vertical recoil is going to be high as well. So it's going to be hard to be accurate with this weapon. You just kind of have to pick a point generally in the area of your opponent and just hose them down. It's really turned into more of a spray and pray weapon. Is it a bad gun? Certainly not. In fact, using in this setup here with the laser and suppressor, I think is one of the best ways to use it. It's great for getting around team deathmatch maps without being spotted on the minimap. If you stay close quarters and near cover, it's often very hard for the enemy to locate you. They can see that their teammates are being killed, they can see their dead bodies on the minimap, but pinpointing where they're getting killed from is very difficult to do. And when you have such a good tool for deceiving your opponents, it should not be disregarded. In fact, deception is really kind of one of the primary tools in all forms of warfare, and if you can deceive your opponents well in Battlefield, it's going to give you a really big leg up on the competition. And what do I mean specifically by deception? It could be something as simple as going left around a corner, your opponent thinks you went left around that corner, and you turning around midway, jukesing them and hitting them when they don't expect it from the opposite angle. That's the very simplest form of it, a very basic rudimentary flank, but being able to be silent on the minimap and using further elements of deception to essentially backflank an entire team before they realize what's going on, you've already taken out an entire squad of the enemy. Now, one of the most important things to remember with this weapon is that although it has an incredibly high rate of fire, 950 rounds per minute makes it very easy to land shots on your opponent, it doesn't do that much damage, 20 maximum. So as soon as you start hitting that damage fall off range, which happens very soon, you're gonna need to start hitting them 6 times before you take them down. So you might pull up behind a whole bunch of guys and think that you got some easy kills. Nope, you're only gonna get 1 or 2 kills unless you're being very accurate, going for headshots and making the best use out of your magazine as possible. Doing a reload mid-combat in close quarters is less and less possible, especially when the opponent, the enemy, knows exactly where you are. Now, using the FN57 as a sidearm is interesting, but I gotta say it's very difficult to use just because it does so little damage. 22 damage maximum means you're going to at least need to hit somebody 5 times before you kill them, probably 6 or 7 if you're shooting at them from medium range distances. It has a hefty size magazine of 20 rounds, but that's still not going to really be enough, or you're not going to be able to do enough damage fast enough to take out your opponent before they kill you. Obviously, you can be effective with this gun if you're really accurate and really used to it, but as far as pistols go, I think I'd rather have something that kills a little bit quicker. Now, if you're clicking fast enough, you can shoot it up to 455 rounds per minute, but again, it's going to be very hard to spam fire and be accurate at the same time, unless you're using some sort of macro. Overall, this really was an effective loadout. I recommend using it on close quarters TDM maps. There's not going to be a lot of other situations where it's really going to be the loadout of choice. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave your loadout comments down below for next week, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.